Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I would say, and I will say it, happy Sunday to all of you. In this crazy world, I don't know, sometimes I'm literally speechless looking at what's happening. But then again, I think the reason for it is more is coming out because of how we communicate now through the social media and etc. So today, what are the stories that I have for you? Well, the first story is about ostriches. You might be wondering if you haven't seen that yet, if you haven't heard that story yet. It's an interesting one. I will present to you two videos about what's going on in British Columbia and Canada, what took place there, a slaughter of 300 ostriches, and why they did that, why they literally shot one by one of those ostriches while the owners of the farm were there at night watching it, that slaughter taking place. So what is the reason why they killed them? Very interesting. I don't think we will be surprised after reading the words from the article. That was from 2021, everyone. Yep, just a little bit, few years ago. And the second story is about Albert Pike, who I think was one of the first, if not the first, Freemason, or maybe he wasn't the first, but he put a lot of energy into that and made an impact, let's put this way. And why I will be talking about it, because his statue was just reinstalled, which means was just brought back in Washington, D.C. by the Trump administration. Why is that? There is a documentary about him. What was his prophecy for the world? Because Freemasons, Zionists, or Jesuits, or all in the same satanic, demonic group, even though they go under different names. Trust me, they hang out together. I absolutely believe it. They socialize, they marry one another. Here we go. Let's start with this drastic story. Before we go there, I don't want to forget, guys, I'm sorry, I almost forgot to say thank you to those of you who have just supported me on PayPal by donating to my PayPal account. To Martin, Jean, and Kenneth, thank you very much for your donation, for your support. It really helps me very much. So let's go to the first story that took place in British Columbia, Canada, and that was just a day ago. I'm not sure if it was last night or the night before, but this is very recent.
Be horrific in case you missed it. Through the night, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency slaughtered them all. Slaughtered around 300 healthy, prehistoric creatures that were ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farms. Ostriches they had, some of them, for close to 30 years. My colleague Sid Fitzard's here. He just spoke with Dave, co-owner of the farm. So we will get that footage out to you. I am on the way to... Sorry guys, it's just disturbing to see. If you haven't already seen it, I've got it linked.
So before I continue, I want to just tell you, now you're gonna see a blonde lady. She is the owner of this farm. And why I'm pointing at that, because in that article that I will be reading you later on, she said few things and she was mentioned. So let's continue with this video for a moment.
Again, I don't blame them. What a night it was, a devastating night. We captured the heartbreaking moments. If you haven't seen that already, make sure you do. Just scroll through savetheostriches.com to see our reports about it.
They don't have the right. They had lights on us for a fucking month, and now they're gonna hide in the dark while they're massacring my beautiful babies, healthy babies, and they're suffering. They are committing breaking the Animal Health Act. They are suffering. They don't die in one shot unless you hit them in the head. They're killing my babies slowly, slowly. Every second.
So before we continue, I want to say, I'm aware that some of you will say, well, those are just ostriches, not a big deal. Let me just say a few things from my perspective. To any of you who has any animals, who is a dog owner, cat owner, or other animals, those are like part of your family. You know, unconditional love from those creatures. I don't know how ostriches act, but those are living beings, right? So I know it might surprise some people why this woman is acting like this. She loves her farm, she loves her animals. And then I will show you also why they did that. So you will understand the next level of her suffering. But the point is, the demons, clearly, satanic, they don't have compassion. They don't have empathy. They don't have this high frequency emotions that we humans do. So for them, this comes easy. Just comes easy. Now, what is the human that takes that gun and shots? There are probably some that will say, no, I'm not going to do it. Well, they kill people in Gaza, right? So let's go to another video about the same story, because it truly will make sense at the end of this. Let me take you there.
What you are witnessing here is going viral because it debunks the official story of what the Canada Food Inspection Agency said as to the reason why they need to unalive 100+ ostriches. Listen to this freaking story. A year ago, they said, one of your birds tested positive. We have to call the whole herd. They said, no, there was a big fight. The government got involved. They sent in police, blah, 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 broke it up. And they took these freaking ostriches down the road, built a hay bale prison for them, and then stood on the hay bales shooting down at them to unalive one by one, picking them off. But here's the crazy part. If they were concerned that these birds had some ailment, the bird flu that could spread all over the place, it's been 2 days that these birds have been laying in an open field for wildlife to come and scavenge and spread this ailment around. Now keep in mind, these birds did not test positive. One tested positive a year ago. These birds were perfectly healthy. This shows you how much they really care. What is really going on behind the scenes? Is it about controlling the food supply, controlling agriculture, controlling livestock? You know they want all that top-down controlled by basically AI at some point, so it makes sense to chip away at people's rights to have their own creatures under a bogus test. By the way, British Columbia is the same place, at least in Kelowna, that they make you cut your apple trees down unless you spray them with pesticides. You got two options. If you have an apple tree on your land, you either spray it with pesticides, you have to, and it's got to be registered, or they cut it down. They say it's to protect all the other apple trees and fruit trees in the region, but that's kind of like, if all the other trees are sprayed with pesticides, shouldn't they be protected? That reminds me of, mine doesn't work unless you have yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow.
Okay, so what was the real reason? Very interesting, isn't it? Let me read you this. This article will be from 2021. Breaking. Gunshot ring out at BC, British Columbia ostrich farm as slaughter of over 300 ostriches has started. Now, here is the article. August 12, 2001. BC ostrich farm developing antibodies that could put an end to coronavirus. This is going to be a game changer. The biggest birds on the planet could be the key to ending the coronavirus, including the Delta variant, which is causing much concern. And a British Columbia ostrich farm is on the cutting edge of making that happen. Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood gained public attention when the owners refused to evacuate in the face of the Meat-Chowd, I don't know how to say it, Creek wildfire last month. Not only did they stay, but the farm became a refuge for numerous other livestock that people dropped off as they left the area. The farm is no longer in danger, and now Karen Espersen, so that woman, that blonde lady you saw in the video, and Dave Biliński, Polish last name, can go back to work. Biliński says the antibodies are extracted from the egg yolks, with a single ostrich egg being equivalent to 24 chicken eggs. This last week, we got word from the lab the antibodies are neutralizing the Delta variant, says Biliński. Espersen says that they are now taking the next step and are working with a company out of Vancouver to create a nasal spray that could be administered to anyone with COVID. Schmovit. Maybe it can be something someone can hold in their pocket or keep in their medicine cabinet, and if they got the coronavirus, they would be able to take this, she says. How quickly the ostriches developed immunity and placed the anti-SARS-CoV-2 antibodies in their eggs. We were even more pleased to see how capable the antibodies were in blocking the virus that caused COVID-19. 10 ostriches were vaccinated, and the antibodies from their eggs have been used in masks, nasal drops, and candies in Japan. The Rinku Medical Clinic, a cancer hospital in Osaka, Japan, has begun a clinical trial on the use of ostrich antibody nasal drops to prevent hospital-acquired coronavirus infection. If a patient infected with SARS-CoV-2 is present, a doctor will spray the antibody solution into the nasal cavity of hospitalized patients. So, that is the reason, everyone. That is the reason, because in nature, if there is a problem, the solution already exists. I think this is the highest intelligence of nature. If there is a problem, the solution already exists. And we also can tap into it using our own, to be connected with ourselves, to our intuition, and know what to do. Quick story, personal story here, and I'm sure you're okay with me sharing, because we on this channel are, I hope, having a community of common sense people who experience a lot, have learned a lot in their lives, and are pretty aware and awakened to what's going on. So when the Schmovit has started, for me personally, I remember, well, before they announced that, and that was February, I think, 2020. I remember I have experienced a very, very severe flu or something like that. It lasted for about 5 days. And I remember the first 2 days were absolutely horrific. I was having shivers. I was experiencing very high temperature. My throat was affected. And I did not recognize this kind of flu because I felt like this is something I have never had before. So I even went during the night, because it was so bad, to the emergency in Santa Barbara, I remember. But even though I had a health insurance, those of you who live in the United States, you know what I'm talking about. Even though I had a health insurance, they told me I still have to pay absolutely crazy amount of money just to see the doctor. And I took a risk because I really felt very bad. I was really sick. I was like, screw it, I will go home and I will just use old grandma ways and take care of myself. So you might think this is, it's impossible. Well, it was. All I did, I was taking a lot of supplements. I remember I had a spray that was, I think, with zinc, magnesium, and there was, I think, vitamin C or something in it. And I also had vitamin D. I was eating the hot chicken soup every day, a lot of hot tea with lemon and ginger and honey, and pretty much, and garlic also. I was making some sandwiches, even though I didn't have taste, I was making with some toast with butter and garlic, lots of garlic, and I was sweating this out. It lasted about 5 days. Even though my muscles were like aching, it was really bad, I came out of it. And I never forget, because this reminded me about the spray. I got a spray in, I think, like Whole Foods or somewhere like that. It was literally just a combination of some minerals, and you were spraying it not into your nose, but into your mouth. So I was just using that. And I was fine. Zero issues. Never tested. Never injected. All good, right? So now let's go to the Albert Pike story. Completely different story, guys. You can share your Schmovit experience. You're very welcome. So let me show you now this article. Here it is. And this is from about 2 weeks ago. Is it? Almost 2 weeks ago. And Confederate statue toppled in Washington, D.C. in 2020 has been reinstalled. So, a statue of the Confederate General Albert Pike that was pulled down. Here's the man. We're going to look at him again later on. That was pulled down and set ablaze in Washington, D.C. in June 2020 during the Black Lives Matter movement, has been renovated and reinstalled in Judiciary Square. So this is in Washington, D.C. The reinstallation on Saturday was a follow-through of an earlier National Park Service announcement that the federal government, so Trump administration, intended to restore the statue, which it says had been damaged in riots. The monument of Pike was first erected in 1901, but has long been a contentious issue within the nation's capital. The Pike statue is the only outdoor monument within Washington, D.C. to honor a Confederate general, but it does not mention his military history. Pike, who was a Freemason and was pardoned by President Andrew Johnson, has also been identified by historians as possibly having been involved with the development of Ku Klux Klan in the period after the Civil War. So let's go to, let me first take you to this particular documentary, because this gentleman is really explaining what that Albert Pike was really about and what was his vision, prophecy for not just the United States, but for the movement, right? And I'm just wondering if they decided to put this statue back because every statue matters, or all statue matters, like all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, all statues matter, or maybe there is some connection in certain groups with this particular idol, the icon of Albert Pike. So let's listen to this documentary, very informative. I hope you have time, it's Sunday. Grab yourself something to drink, some coffee, tea, and let's take a listen.
Albert Pike was one of the most colorful characters in American history. It is said that he was born on December 29th, 1809 in Boston, was the eldest son of 6 children born to Benjamin, Sarah, Andrew Pike. He studied at Harvard and later served as Brigadier General of the Confederate Army. After the Civil War, Pike was found guilty of treason and jailed, only to be pardoned by President Andrew Jackson on April 2nd, 1866, who met with him the next day at the White House. On June 20th, 1867, Scottish Rite officials conferred upon Johnson 32nd degree Freemasonry degrees. Pike was said to be a genius, able to read and write 16 languages. He was one of the founding fathers of the head of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, being the Grand Commander of North America Freemasonry from 1859, and retained that position until his death in 1891. In 1869, he was the top leader of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Pike was said to be a Satanist who indulged in the occult, and he apparently possessed a bracelet which he used to summon Lucifer, with whom he had constant communication. He was the Grand Master of a Luciferian group known as the Order of the Palladium, or of Sovereign Council of Wisdom, it's also been called, which had been founded in Paris in 1737. Now, General Albert Pike was the only Confederate general with a statue on federal property in Washington, D.C. He was honored not as a commander or even as a lawyer, but as Southern Regional Leader of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The statue stands on a pedestal near the foot of Capitol Hill between the Department of Labor building and the Municipal building between 3rd and 4th Streets on D Street Northwest. Now, I tell you all of this because it is said that he received a vision from his mentor, Mr. Lucifer, I guess, on August 15th, 1871. And William Guy Carr, former intelligence officer in the Royal Canadian Navy, wrote a book called Satan, Prince of this World, in which he gives this information. He said that he received this information from a book written by Cardinal Caro Rodriguez in Santiago, Chile, who wrote in 1925 a book called The Mystery of Freemasonry Unveiled. And in this book, in 1925, it is said that he wrote a letter to a man named Mazzini, in which he described this dream. And in the dream, he predicted 3 world wars. The First World War, he said, must be brought about, and I'm quoting from Albert Pike. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and German empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Now, students of history will know that Otto von Bismarck forged certain alliances between 1871 and 1898, which brought about this war, this World War I. And Otto von Bismarck here says that he was a co-conspirator with Albert Pike, and he was the one instrumental in bringing about the First World War. Well, that's the First World War. Then he dreams that there must be, he is given in this visionary dream, a Second World War. Now remember, this was in 1925 that it became public in this book written by a cardinal from Santiago, Chile, Rodriguez. He says, quote, "The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism will be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm." Well, there are some who may argue that the terms Nazism and Zionism were not known in 1871. You should remember, however, that the Illuminati invented both of these movements. In addition, communism as an ideology and as a coined phrase originates in France during the Revolution. In 1785, Restif coined the phrase 4 years before the revolution broke out. Restif and Babeuf, in turn, were influenced by Rosé, as was the most famous conspirator of them all, Adam Weishaupt. Then he has this vision, in this vision, not only one world war and two world wars, but here comes the third world war. He says, and I quote, "The third world war must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world." Yeah, that's what he says. The war, this was 1925. Please understand that. At least 1925. May go all the way back to 1871, as is purported to do, but at least it was written in a book and published in 1925. So he says, after World War I was just over a few years, and before World War II even started, he's now thinking about this third world war, and it says that it will be caused by the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. That's what it says. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm in which, in all its horror, will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin and savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. So he's against Christianity and he's against atheism. They're supposed to fight each other to the death, you see. Then, he says, everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowledge where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. That's what he says. Brought finally out in the public view. So he's saying that Lucifer will finally make himself, the good guy. He's going to save the world from these atheists who don't believe in deity and from these Christians who believe in the good God. Well, so it says, this manifestation will result in the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Well, I don't know if it's true, but I can tell you that it sure has played into what is being carried on in the Middle East today. And it looks like everything from World War I and World War II, with the development of the State of Israel, and with the Zionist movement and the communist movement and the atheist movement and the peppering down of persecution on the Christians of this world, it looks like that may be Lucifer's attempt at annihilation of us all, so that Lucifer will appear in the form, of course, of what the Bible calls the Antichrist, and establish peace on earth for mankind. I got news for all those Illuminatists. I can tell you this, they're all going to be thrown into the lake of fire. So says the Word of God, and I believe it from cover to cover.
So there you have it, some story about Albert Pike, and I really wanted to end this video with a clip that I lost somewhere here, so maybe I will present to you in my next video. But I have to say, guys, if people are still thinking that they are not all connected, those so-called leaders, that there is one better than another and they are not playing the humanity. I think, I don't know what to say, because the more I look at it, the more I see how at first it seems that there could be some difference. All roads lead to the same power, the same domination, the same agenda. And let me just see if I can find this video, because I really wanted to show you this. Okay, here it is. So this will end my video today, because this is a perfect summary. You say that, you know, Zionism is fighting with Islam, etc. I don't think so. Actually, I don't think so. I think it's all an illusion. So let's take a look at this.
Same. Same, but different. But still same. Oh, thank you. Konnichiwa. Yeah, same. Same, but different. But still same.
Okay, so you can see here, this is one of those extreme believers from the Holy Land. And this is this black cube around which the Islam believers gathered. Cube here, cube here. There is same cube in the temple in the United Nations building. So same. That's all I have for you today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I will attach, as I always do, links down below. Just scroll down under the video. It's in the description box. And if you appreciate the content I provide for you, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel free of charge, and let me know your thoughts. Welcome to share your experiences with the Shmovit, your reaction to Shmovit 5 years ago. 5 years ago, everyone. We made it through. It wasn't easy to some people, but we made it through. And this is all for today. If you choose to support my work, the best way is to become my Patreon supporter. You can join me on Locals as well, or donate on PayPal. And if you have Instagram, follow me there. It's AniaK_44. Link is also down below this video. Lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge, and we are saving humanity. See you in the next video. Bye, everyone.